Have you ever felt like there are truths about life nobody talks about until it's too late? I know I have. Growing up, I was taught to believe that hard work guarantees success, that good people always win, and that life eventually rewards everyone fairly. But experience taught me something very different. The world operates by rules that most people never explain, and some of those rules are uncomfortable, even painful to accept. In this video, I'm sharing 7 dark life lessons that change the way I see people, success, relationships, and reality itself. These truths may be difficult to hear, but they can completely transform your life. For a long time, I believed that saying yes was always a good thing. Yes to opportunities. Yes to helping people. Yes to extra work. Yes to invitations. Yes to responsibilities. I thought every yes moved me forward. I thought being available, agreeable, and willing would naturally create a better life. But eventually, I learned a dark truth that most people never talk about. Every yes has a hidden price, and most of the time, that price is paid with something you can never get back. Your time. Your energy, your attention. Your freedom. The world teaches us to focus on what we gain when we say yes. We see the promotion, the relationship, the business opportunity, the favor, the experience. What we rarely see is what disappears in exchange, because every yes is also a no. When I say yes to one thing, I'm automatically saying no to countless other possibilities. If I spend 3 hours helping someone solve their problems, that's 3 hours I cannot spend building my future. If I commit to a project that doesn't align with my goals, I'm silently abandoning something that does. If I stay in the wrong relationship, I'm saying no to the possibility of finding the right one. The frightening part is that these costs are invisible. Nobody shows you the opportunities you missed. Nobody introduces you to the version of yourself you could have become. Nobody lets you compare the life you chose against the life you sacrificed. So most people continue saying yes without realizing what it's costing them. I learned this lesson when I started looking at successful people differently. At first, I thought their success came from what they said yes to. But after paying attention, I realized their power often came from what they refused. They said no more than they said yes. They protected their time fiercely. They guarded their focus. They rejected distractions. They disappointed people when necessary. And because of that, they had room to pursue what truly mattered. Meanwhile, many of us are trapped by endless yeses. We say yes because we don't want conflict. We say yes because we want approval. We say yes because we're afraid of being judged. We say yes because we fear missing out. But every unnecessary commitment slowly drains the energy needed for our own growth. One of the darkest realities I discovered is that some people benefit from your inability to say no. Think about that. Not everyone wants you to be free. Not everyone wants you focused. Not everyone wants you pursuing your highest potential. Some people consciously or unconsciously rely on your availability. They rely on your guilt. They rely on your willingness to sacrifice your priorities for theirs. And the moment you begin setting boundaries, something interesting happens. Some people become uncomfortable. Some become angry. Some accuse you of changing. But what they're really reacting to is the loss of access. They once had to your time and energy. That realization was painful for me, because I used to think being needed meant being valued. I confused usefulness with importance. I confused sacrifice with love. I confused exhaustion with productivity. Then one day I asked myself a simple question. What if the life I want is hiding behind all the things I'm afraid to say no to? That question changed everything. I began examining every commitment differently. Instead of asking, what do I gain by saying yes? I started asking, what will this cost me? Will it cost my peace? Will it cost my focus? Will it cost my health? Will it cost my future? Will it cost my goals? Because every decision carries a price tag. The world simply hides the bill until later. And by the time most people realize, what they've spent years have passed, dreams have faded, opportunities have vanished, potential has been exchanged for obligations. The harsh truth is that life is not determined only by the choices we make. It's determined by the choices we refuse to make. Every meaningful achievement requires exclusion. To build one future, you must abandon others. To master one skill, you must neglect countless alternatives. To become one person, you must let go of many versions of yourself. That's why saying no isn't negativity, it's clarity. It's deciding what deserves your limited time on this planet. Because your life is built from attention, and attention is finite. You cannot give it to everything. You cannot chase every opportunity. You cannot satisfy every person. You cannot carry every burden. At some point, maturity means accepting that every yes creates a debt, and wisdom is learning which debts are worth paying. Today, when I say yes to something, I remind myself of this hidden law: nothing is free. Every commitment demands a sacrifice. Every opportunity closes another door. Every path chosen leaves another unexplored. And while that truth may sound dark, it's also incredibly liberating, because once I understood the unseen cost of every yes, I stopped trying to do everything. I stopped trying to please everyone. I stopped apologizing for protecting my priorities. And for the first time, my life started moving in the direction I actually wanted. The world will always encourage you to say yes. But the people who build extraordinary lives understand something most never. Learn, your future is shaped less by the opportunities you accept, and more by the distractions you refuse. Lesson 2, your greatest enemy is often in the mirror. For most of my life, I believed my biggest obstacles were outside of me. I blamed circumstances. I blamed bad luck. I blamed difficult people. I blamed a lack of opportunities, and sometimes those things were real. Sometimes life genuinely is unfair. Sometimes people betray you. Sometimes circumstances hold you back. But as painful as those realities were, they distracted me from a much darker truth. The person causing the most damage to my life wasn't always out there. Often, it was the person staring back at me in the mirror. That realization was hard to accept. Because it's much easier to fight an enemy you can point at. It's much easier to blame a boss, a friend, a partner, a competitor, or society itself. But when the problem is you, there is nowhere to hide. I began noticing a pattern. The same mistakes kept appearing in different forms. The same frustrations followed me into new situations. The same fears resurfaced no matter how much my environment changed. At first, I thought life was repeating itself. Then I realized something unsettling. The common factor in every situation was me. I was carrying invisible habits that sabotaged my progress. I was making excuses that sounded reasonable but kept me stuck. I was postponing important decisions while convincing myself I needed more time. I was waiting for confidence before taking action. I was seeking comfort while claiming I wanted growth. And without realizing it, I had become both the prisoner and the prison guard of my own life. One of the darkest lessons I've learned is that self-sabotage rarely looks like self-destruction. It often disguises itself as logic. It sounds intelligent, it sounds responsible, it sounds cautious. You tell yourself you'll start when you're ready. You'll launch the business when conditions improve. You'll pursue the dream when you have more money. You'll speak up when your confidence grows. You'll take the risk when fear disappears. But the truth is that readiness is often an illusion. The perfect moment rarely arrives. And while you're waiting, life keeps moving. Years pass, opportunities vanish, potential quietly expires, not because someone stopped you. Because you stopped yourself. I remember realizing that many of my limitations weren't actual barriers. They were stories. Stories I had repeated so often that they felt like facts. I told myself I wasn't experienced enough. I told myself I wasn't talented enough. I told myself other people had advantages I didn't have. And maybe some of those things were true, but even if they were true, they weren't the reason I wasn't moving forward. The real reason was that I had accepted those stories as permanent. The human mind is incredibly powerful. But it can also become incredibly dangerous when it works against you. It can convince you to stay small. It can justify fear. It can rationalize procrastination. It can protect your comfort while destroying your future. And the most dangerous part, it does all of this while making you believe you're being sensible. The enemy in the mirror doesn't usually scream. It whispers doubts. It whispers excuses. It whispers reasons to wait. It whispers reasons to quit. And because the voice sounds like your own, you trust it. For years, I trusted mine, until I started questioning it. I started asking myself difficult questions. What if I'm not stuck because of my circumstances? What if I'm stuck because I've become comfortable with them? What if my fears are exaggerating the risks? What if the thing I'm avoiding is exactly what I need to do? Those questions exposed something uncomfortable. I wasn't afraid of failure, not really. I was afraid of responsibility. Because if I truly gave my best effort, I could no longer blame external factors. If I committed fully and still failed, I would have to face reality directly. Many people never reach their potential because they secretly protect themselves from that possibility. They stay halfway committed. They stay halfway invested. They stay halfway disciplined. That way, if things don't work out, they can always tell themselves they never really tried. It's a psychological escape hatch, a way to avoid confronting the truth, but it comes at a terrible cost. You never discover what you're capable of. The mirror doesn't just reflect your appearance. It reflects your habits, your choices, your discipline, your excuses, your standards, and eventually it reflects the life you've built. That's why this lesson is so dark, because once you realize how much control you actually have, you also realize how much responsibility belongs to you. You can no longer blame everyone else. You can no longer wait for rescue. You can no longer pretend your future is entirely in someone else's hands. The mirror demands honesty, and honesty is uncomfortable. It forces you to acknowledge the opportunities you ignored, the discipline you lacked, the conversations you avoided, the risks you refused to take. But hidden within that discomfort is something powerful: freedom. Because if you are the problem, you can also become the solution. If your habits created your situation, your habits can change it. If your decisions brought you here, different decisions can take you somewhere else. That realization transformed the way I see challenges. Instead of asking, "Who is stopping me?" I began asking, "How am I stopping myself?" Instead of searching for enemies outside, I started confronting the one within. And that's when real growth began. The world will always contain obstacles. There will always be unfairness. There will always be setbacks. But the most dangerous enemy you'll ever face is the version of yourself that chooses comfort. Comfort over growth, excuses over accountability, and fear over action. Because no external enemy has the power to limit your life as effectively as the one living inside your own mind. And until you conquer that enemy, every other victory will remain out of reach. Lesson 3. Time is not an infinite resource. For most of my life, I treated time as if it would always be there. I assumed there would be another year, another opportunity, another chance to start, another chance to apologize, another chance to pursue the dream I kept postponing. I lived as though the future was guaranteed. But one of the darkest lessons life eventually taught me is this: time is not an infinite resource, and unlike money, once it's spent, it can never be earned back. When I was younger, time felt endless. A year felt like forever. 10 years felt unimaginable. Old age seemed so far away that it barely felt real. But something changes as you get older. You begin to notice how quickly the years disappear. One moment you're making plans for the future. The next moment you're wondering where the last decade went. Days become weeks, weeks become months, months become years, and suddenly you're staring at memories that feel like they happened yesterday. That's when I realized a frightening truth. Life doesn't move slowly. It only feels slow when you're looking forward. When you look back, it feels incredibly fast. The world encourages us to believe we have plenty of time. Plenty of time to start the business. Plenty of time to improve our health. Plenty of time to strengthen relationships. Plenty of time to chase our ambitions. But reality operates differently. Time is disappearing whether we notice it or not. Every sunrise removes another day from our lives. Every birthday is not only a celebration of age, it's also a reminder that a portion of our remaining time has been used. Most people avoid thinking about this. I understand why. It's uncomfortable. It forces us to confront our mortality. It reminds us that our lives have limits, and human beings don't like limits. We like to imagine there's always more time, because that belief allows us to delay difficult decisions. It allows us to postpone uncomfortable action. It allows us to continue living as we are. But life keeps moving regardless of what we believe. One day I asked myself a question that changed everything. If I only had 5 years left, what would I stop tolerating? The answer was immediate. I would stop wasting time on meaningless arguments. I would stop chasing approval from people who didn't care about me. I would stop delaying goals that mattered. I would stop pretending that distractions were harmless. Because when time becomes scarce in your mind, clarity appears. You begin to see what truly matters. You begin to recognize how much of your life is consumed by things that add no value. The tragedy is that most people don't discover this clarity until much later. Some discover it after a major loss. Some discover it after a health scare. Some discover it when someone they love suddenly disappears. And some discover it when they realize they've spent decades building a life they never truly wanted. One of the darkest truths about time is that it feels abundant right before it becomes scarce. People always assume they'll have another opportunity. But opportunities have expiration dates. Relationships have expiration dates. Physical abilities have expiration dates. Even dreams have expiration dates if ignored long enough. There are things you can do at 20 that become harder. At 40, things you can do at 40 that become harder at 60. Life isn't just about having opportunities. It's about recognizing when they exist and acting before they vanish. I used to think the greatest loss in life was failure. Now I think it's regret, because failure can teach you. Failure can make you stronger. Failure can become a story of growth. But regret is different. Regret is the pain of possibilities that were never explored. It's wondering what might have happened if you had started, if you had spoken up, if you had taken the chance, if you had stopped waiting. The older I get, the more I realize that life isn't measured by years alone. It's measured by attention. Where your attention goes, your life follows, and that's why distractions are so dangerous. Not because they are evil, because they're expensive. Every hour spent mindlessly drifting is an hour that can never be reclaimed. Every day spent postponing what matters is a day permanently removed from your future. And unlike money, time offers no refunds, no extensions, no second inventory, no replacement shipment. Once it's gone forever. That truth sounds dark, but it can also be incredibly empowering. Because when you truly understand the value of time, you stop living carelessly. You become more intentional. You become more selective. You begin treating your days like the precious resource they are. You stop assuming tomorrow is guaranteed. You start appreciating people while they're still here. You start pursuing goals while you still have the energy. You start saying what needs to be said. You start becoming who you want to become, not someday, now. Because the reality is that nobody knows how much time they have left. The clock is ticking for all of us. Some people simply choose not to hear it. I no longer see time as something to spend. I see it as something to invest. Every day is a withdrawal from an account whose balance I cannot see. And that may be one of the darkest truths of all. None of us knows how much remains. We only know that every second brings us closer to the end. So if there's one lesson life has forced me to learn, it's this: stop living as though your time is unlimited. Because one day you'll realize that the most valuable thing you ever possessed wasn't money, status, or success. It was time. And by then, whatever portion you've wasted will be gone forever. Lesson 4, you are hardwired for compliance. For most of my life, I like to believe I was an independent thinker. I believed my decisions were my own. My opinions were my own. My goals were my own. I saw myself as someone who made choices freely, guided by reason and personal conviction. But the more I observed people and the more honestly I observed myself, the more I discovered a disturbing truth. Human beings are hardwired for compliance. We like to think we're unique. We like to think we stand apart from the crowd. But beneath the surface, most of us are deeply influenced by the expectations of others. More than we realize, and more than we'd like to admit. I began noticing this in small ways. How often I adjusted my behavior depending on who was around. How often I avoided saying what I truly thought because I didn't want conflict. How often I followed social norms without ever questioning them. At first, these seemed like harmless habits. But eventually I realized they were part of something much larger. The need to belong, the need to be accepted, the need to avoid rejection. These desires are so deeply embedded in us that they often override logic. Throughout human history, belonging to a group increased the chances of survival. Being accepted meant protection. Being rejected could mean danger. Our brains evolved in environments where fitting in wasn't just beneficial, it was necessary. And even though the world has changed, those instincts remain. That's why people often follow crowds even when the crowd is wrong. That's why remain silent when they witness injustice. That's why many people sacrifice their dreams to meet expectations they never chose. The desire for acceptance is powerful. Powerful enough to make intelligent people ignore obvious truths. Powerful enough to make good people compromise their values. Powerful enough to keep entire society moving in directions that few individuals actually support. One of the darkest realizations I ever had was this: many of my goals weren't truly mine. Some were inherited from family expectations. Some came from social pressure. Some came from comparing myself to other people. I had spent years chasing achievements without asking a simple question: do I actually want this? Or have I simply been conditioned to want it? That question exposed a reality I wasn't prepared for. Much of what we call ambition is often imitation. We see what others value, we absorb their standards, we adopt their definitions of success. And eventually we mistake those borrowed desires for our own. The world rewards compliance in subtle ways. Follow the script and you're praised. Stay inside the lines and you're accepted. Avoid making people uncomfortable, and life becomes easier, at least temporarily. But there's a hidden cost. The more you comply with expectations that don't align with who you are, the further you drift from yourself. You start living a life that looks successful from the outside, but feels empty on the inside. You achieve milestones that bring little satisfaction. You earn approval that doesn't fulfill you. You become a version of yourself designed for acceptance rather than authenticity. And because everyone around you is doing something similar, the illusion becomes normal. One of the most frightening things about compliance is that it rarely feels like obedience. It feels like common sense. It feels reasonable. It feels safe. The crowd doesn't force you. The crowd simply makes alternatives feel uncomfortable, and most will choose comfort over truth. Again and again, I know I did. There were moments when I stayed quiet instead of speaking honestly. Moments when I followed paths that no longer inspired me. Moments when I ignored my instincts because they conflicted with what others expected. Every time I did that, I lost a small piece of myself. Not all at once. Slowly, quietly, almost invisibly. That's how we'll choose comfort over truth. Again and again, I know I did. There were moments when I stayed quiet instead of speaking honestly. Moments when I followed paths that no longer inspired me. Moments when I ignored my instincts because they conflicted with what others expected. Every time I did that, I lost a small piece of myself. Not all at once. Slowly, quietly, almost invisibly. That's how compliance works. It doesn't usually demand dramatic surrender. It asks for small compromises, one at a time. A little honesty sacrificed here, a little courage sacrificed there. Until one day you look around and realize you're living according to rules you never consciously chose. The hardest part is that breaking away comes with consequences. People may misunderstand you. Some may criticize you. Others may accuse you of changing. And they're right. You are changing. You're becoming less controllable, less predictable, less dependent on external validation. And that can make people uncomfortable, because every person who chooses authenticity reminds others of the compromises they've made. The world often celebrates individuality in theory, but in practice, it frequently rewards conformity. That's why genuine independence is rare, not because people lack intelligence, but because standing apart requires courage. It requires the willingness to be misunderstood, the willingness to disappoint others, the willingness to lose approval. Most people spend their entire lives avoiding those experiences, and as a result, they never discover who they truly are. The greatest freedom I ever found wasn't financial freedom, it wasn't social freedom, it wasn't even freedom from obligations. It was freedom from the constant need for approval. The moment I stopped needing everyone to agree with me, I started making better decisions. The moment I stopped chasing acceptance, I started discovering my own values. I started asking, what do I believe? And that question changed everything. Because the truth is, compliance isn't always imposed from the outside. Often it's self-imposed. We become our own enforcers. We silence ourselves before anyone else can. We abandon our ideas before they can be judged. We shrink ourselves to fit expectations. And then we wonder why we feel trapped. The dark lesson is this: you were born with a powerful desire to belong. But if you never learn to question that desire, it can quietly control your entire life. The crowd can offer comfort. The crowd can offer approval. The crowd can offer safety. But sometimes the price of belonging is becoming someone you're not. And eventually, every person must decide what matters more: the comfort of acceptance or the freedom of being truly themselves.